Morning everyone and a Happy New Year. Thank you, and a Happy New Year. I'm going to put these on because then I can see you. Oh, hello. Who ate something nice over Christmas? Oh, the rest of you need to find better places to go. I would love you very quickly to tell the person next to you the best thing you ate. Homemade gingerbread, Ginger. That sounds amazing. This Christmas period. Okay, you can stop. Like, there was a lot more passion about what you hated than what you ate. It was really nice. That was funny. I think if you were to cut me in half right now, this half would be made of cheese and this half would be made of chocolates. It's been a great Christmas. Yeah, a few friends with me. And I hope you feasted well, because as we know, after the feasting comes the fasting. I've been saying this for 7 years, friends. After the feasting comes the fasting. We're going to think this morning a little bit about the fasting that we are about to undertake as a community together. And I want you to remember the goodness of God even in the fasting and the good things that He gives us. Because actually fasting is about remembering where all of those good things that we have enjoyed together come from. They all come from God. So why should we fast? Well, I've got a little analogy, a little thing that's going to help us understand one of the reasons why we as a community really believe that starting the new year as fasting is really important. So Simon, I need you and your phone, please. Come and smile. Here you go. You need your phone out. And I need Lucy, because she's my beautiful assistant. Give her a round of applause. There you go. I'll have my phone back. She quite likes my phone. You might not end up... Well, these guys are all going to go and help. Brilliant. We've got a team helping outside. And Mark, I've got you, yeah? Oh, Mark. Both Marks. So, in a moment, Lucy is going to phone Simon. But I need some help to distract him. So, if you are under the age of 10, I'd like you to stand on a pew. Really tall. Yeah, Jacob, you're under 10. Stand up. Come on, up you go. If you are over the age of 10, you can stand up. That's all of you, just so you know. Now, your job, when Lucy phones, is to distract the heck out of him. I don't care what you do. If you're under 10, you haven't got a mask on, you can make the silliest face that you possibly can to distract him. If you have got a mask on, a silly face probably won't work, so you're going to have to be a bit more creative. So, I'm going to get Lucy to phone. As soon as yours on loud... No, you don't. You turn around. Is it on loud? Okay. As soon as you hear his phone ring, you know what to do, as you do at the back. Okay, team outside. Quick! Go on, go, 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 go! Really loud! Really loud! Much louder! Come on! Come on, come on, come on! Come on, come on! Quick, we've got quick speed! Okay, you can stop! Bye, she said bye. Did you hear that? She hung up on you. Yeah, I tried to do that a lot. Right, you guys can all sit down. Simon, how was that? Was it easy to hear anybody?
It was easy to hear everybody, but nobody at the same time.
Who gets the award for the funniest face?
Oh, I don't know. I was trying so hard to listen.
Okay, now, next challenge. Lucy's going to phone Simon in just a moment. Again, your challenge is to be as quiet and as still as possible. Imagine you're at a children's party and we are playing musical statues. I know you can do it. So let's have a go. And Simon is going to hear the same message that Lucy shared, and let's see if he can hear it. So are you ready? You can come back. I'm not sure that was the message we agreed with. But, you know, should those of you, we all heard that. It wasn't even you. Thank you, team. Simon, was it easier to hear them the second time? A little. Okay, if anybody knows a good hearing specialist, Simon might need to see them. Wasn't it interesting how removing the distractions hopefully helps us hear? This world is a busy one, and this life is a full one. And for many of us, there's lots of things that make it noisy. One of the things we try to do when we fast is give up a number of the things that distract us so that we can hear God's voice. Why fast? Because at the beginning of this year, it's important that we take away some of the distractions and we tune into what God is saying. If you've been part of this community for a while, you'll know that through the Daniel fast, God has spoken unbelievable, amazing, wonderful things to so many of us, some of which have been massively life-changing. And so we're going to spend 3 weeks from the 10th of January with IIC, once again committing to fasting. In a few moments, Simon's going to come and introduce the theme to us. But here are 3 things that we would love you to consider doing through the fast that will begin on the 10th. We'd like you to give some things up. Give things up that are a distraction to you. Some of us will be giving up a number of food-related things using the Daniel Fast model, all of which is on the website. So we'll be giving up things like caffeine and alcohol and meat and sweeteners and sweet things as a way of using our diet to remove some of the things that might have a hold over us. Some of us might find actually that's not appropriate for us, so we're going to give up something else that's a distraction. Social media, Instagram, whatever it is. Movies. I've watched a lot more TV than normal over Christmas, so maybe removing some TV. What are you going to do that helps those distractions quieten down so you can hear God's voice? But the giving up is just one part of the fast. We're asking you to take something up. It's all very well giving up TV, but what are you going to do with your time? I'd love you to take up something that's going to help you tune into God's voice. It could be reading the Bible every day, using the pamphlet, the material we've prepared that will be on the website, Facebook, and you can pick up a paper copy as well. It could be reading that book that's been on your mind for a while. I must pick that book up because I know God's going to speak. It could be praying together with somebody else daily. Whatever it is, I'm looking forward to you sharing what you are going to take up that will help you tune into God's voice. As a family, we're going to use the new Lectio 365 Kids app. No, it's Family app. It is utterly brilliant. We've used it through December. That might be something that you, if you're a family, want to take up 10 minutes of your time every day to use that app to learn God's word together. So, what are you going to give up? What are you going to take up? And then the final one is a join up. Now, if you read about fasts in the Bible, there are all kinds of different ways that people fasted. Daniel fasted pretty much individually with 1 or 2 friends. But if you look at the book of Esther, which we did in our Monday morning worship last term, it was a community fast. Everybody joining in together to pray and seek God together. This is a community fast, and we're thrilled again to be doing with IIC, and there'll be lots of opportunities for us to join in, to join up together, to seek God's voice and to pray together. And again, all of that information is on the website, bellington.church/Danielfast. Let us, through January, tune into God's voice. And to do that, let's lay down, give up some of the things that distract us from hearing his voice clearly. And let's do it together, encouraging one another, praying for each other, and seeking God together, because there is something really powerful about doing this together.
We really hope that the fast this year is an inspiring and exciting way to tune into God at the beginning of 2022. Do get in touch if the team can help you in any way. We are now going to have our reading, and then Simon is going to share some more about the theme for this year's fast: Abide, Align and Advance.
Genesis 28, verses 10 to 22. Jacob left Beersheba and set out for Haran. When he reached a certain place, he stopped for the night because the sun had set. Taking one of the stones there, he put it under his head and lay down to sleep. He had a dream in which he saw a stairway resting on the earth with its top reaching to heaven, and the angels of God were ascending and descending on it. There above it stood the Lord, and he said, "I am the Lord, the God of your father Abraham and the God of Isaac. I will give you and your descendants the land on which you are lying. Your descendants will be like the dust of the earth, and you will spread out to the west and to the east, to the north and to the south. All peoples on earth will be blessed through you and your offspring. I am with you, and I will watch over you wherever you go, and I will bring you back to this land. I will not leave you until I have done what I have promised you." When Jacob awoke from his sleep, he thought, "Surely the Lord is in this place, and I was not aware of it." He was afraid and said, "How awesome is this place! This is none other than the house of God. This is the gate of heaven." Early the next morning, Jacob took the stone he had placed under his head and set it up as a pillar and poured oil on top of it. He called that place Bethel, though the city used to be called Luz. Then Jacob made a vow, saying, "If God will be with me and will watch over me on this journey I am taking, and will give me food to eat and clothes to wear, so that I return safely to my father's household, then the Lord will be my God, and this stone that I have set up as a pillar will be God's house. And of all that you give me, I will give you a tenth."
Indeed, surely the Lord was in this place, and I was not aware of it. Our longing over these weeks is that we discover that God is in the place of our lives. Jacob was in the midst of a difficult season, and he discovered that God met him where he was. I don't know about you, but I don't feel much like fasting at the moment. I don't feel much like fasting because we're kind of overwhelmed with the sense of losses that we feel. Claire's mum's funeral will be on Monday, a week tomorrow for your prayers. Chris Sheldrake, as many of you know, funeral will be the following Monday, the 17th, 10:30 here in the morning. And then later on that week here also in church, Ray Deeks' funeral. And not only that, as we celebrate communion next Sunday to start our Daniel fast, we'll remember others that heaven has gained and we have lost over this last year. And gather with that our sense of discontent over the holidays, the anxiety about who we will meet and when we can meet them, and things planned and cancelled and so on. So I guess that many of you can understand what I'm saying when I say I can't be bothered with fasting. It feels like too much like an effort and hard work. And that's what struck me as I was thinking about these next few weeks. That my posture towards fasting can be, it's about my effort and my striving. How many of you have read what we sent out on email on Thursday? Okay, so not many of us are picking up our email communication. That's worth us knowing. But that's the place where you'll get to tune in to what's going on. So maybe that's in your inbox. If it's not in your inbox, then make sure you ask for it to be in your inbox. Usually there's about one thing a week on average that comes out from us that is important to help keep us all connected. And I was saying there that my posture towards fasting can easily become about my own effort, my striving. Can I put in enough effort to give up whatever it is? Can I put in enough effort to cope with not eating whatever I would like to eat? Can I put in enough effort to do that extra activity, to take up whatever it is I'm taking up? And right now I feel like I can't be bothered. And then I felt the Spirit of God whisper a little bit that maybe it's got nothing to do with my effort. Maybe it's nothing to do with how much effort can I put in over these next few weeks. Maybe what's happening over these next few weeks is an invitation from God for me to draw close. And I don't know what verse that you typically think of when we talk about drawing close to God. You know the one in James, draw near to God and He'll draw near to you. Or come to me, all you who are and burdened, and I will. What if fasting is not about what can I give up, what effort can I put in to try and twist God's arm in some way? What if it's an invitation for me to respond to that invitation from God that is always present? It was there for Jacob as he slept, even though he didn't realize it. And maybe our collective prayer is, can God awaken in us a receptivity to the invitation that is always present? Come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. There is a story that in a way reinforces what Lucy was demonstrating with the mobile phone some moments ago. It began with a 4-year-old boy who would strum whatever bit of string or elastic he could possibly find. And you know when your kids are little and they're doing something that's perfectly normal and you go, my kid's a genius. Well, it turned out that this kid was a genius. And they decided to buy him a violin. And by the age of 12, he was playing in symphonies. By the age of 30, Joshua Bell was able to command a fee of $1,000 a minute for playing his violin. And the social experimenters decided on a social experiment. And he was on tour one night in Boston, next night in Washington. And they asked him whether he would go early to Washington in order to play in the subway during rush hour. And he agreed that he would play in the subway during rush hour, and he would take his most expensive violin that was £3.5 million. And with a flat cap, he began to play in the subway. Remember, the night before, he was in concert, $1,000 a minute. The next day in rush hour, he started to play. It took 7 minutes for anybody to even pause. Everybody didn't even notice. And then there was a pause for a second. He put a few dollars into the hat to try and get things going. At the end of the hour, he had raised $32, and no one except one person had stopped for longer than a minute. Now, of course, there's the obvious parallels, isn't there, about our fast. We're in the rush of life, and are we going to stop? And are we going to notice that God's invitation is right there, even in the subway of our lives? But I was struck by the one person who was at the concert the previous night, would you believe it, and recognized him in the subway that day and stopped for 7 minutes, amazed that this genius was available to her free of charge, having spent the money the night before, free of charge there in the subway. And I thought, that's it, isn't it? that free of charge, available to us, not in the cathedrals and temples of our lives, but in the ordinariness of our lives, in the subway of our everyday commute, our everyday comings and goings, our clearing away, our getting out, our cooking, our sleeping, our reading, our watching, our playing, our working, in our everyday lives. There is this invitation to what the psalmist calls Selah. Have you noticed that in the NIV? I think it's got it recorded. Every now and again it says Selah. And my paraphrase of that is, for goodness sake, pause for a moment. It's an invitation to just take in the magnitude of what the psalmist is saying, the wonder that God's presence is there in the mess of our everyday lives. For goodness sake, Selah. For goodness sake, pause. Come to me even in the subway, the underground of life, all you who are weary, and I will give you rest. So I'm journeying, and I invite you to journey with me on a transition from, let's not spend the next 3 weeks all about what can I do, what effort can I put in, but let's spend the next 3 weeks saying yes to the invitation to pause, to Selah, to lean into God's presence in whatever way you find most helpful. I wonder, could we have the slide up that was at the beginning, Mark? There's 3 words, the align, the abide, align, and advance slide on the screen. We're going to be digging in our daily rhythms from next week in John chapter 15. And you will know those familiar verses. I am the vine, you are the branches. Whoever abides in me will bear much fruit. And there are 2 words that come to my mind again and again as I think about those verses in John chapter 15. The first is faithfulness. The first is faithfulness. Because for the vine to grow, it's got to stay in the same place for quite a long time. It's got to do the same thing day in, day out, day in, day out. It's got to stick with it through the seasons. Faithfulness. But faithfulness itself wasn't enough. But maybe it's enough for us today. Is there an area today where God is inviting you to be just a little bit more faithful in saying yes to the invitation? A little bit more rhythmic, a little bit more sticking at the same thing for a little bit longer? Where is God inviting you to take that pause that faithfulness expresses? But you will also know from John chapter 15 that faithfulness by itself, in the end, wasn't enough. Because the branches that did not bear fruit were what? Were pruned, were cut off. There is a calling to be faithful that leads to fruitfulness. And that's also the challenge of saying yes to the invitation. Saying yes to the pause. Not just to be faithful, but where, Lord God, are you calling me to be more fruitful? Where have I been faithful perhaps in the wrong things, in the wrong ways? But a little tweak, a little change can make me more fruitful. So that's my journey. My journey up to the fast is how can I lean into seeing this as an invitation rather than an obligation for which I need to strive? To make it about what God is doing in me rather than the effort that I can put in. And then during the fast, through these 3 weeks of thinking about abiding and then aligning, the pruning, and then where we might step into growth, the advancing. Where am I faithful? And where does my faithfulness need to change to help me become more fruitful? And in the end, all of that is God's doing, isn't it? The Bible tells us that it's God's work in us that makes us more like His Son, Jesus. Faithfulness to fruitfulness, or abiding and aligning and advancing.